Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the live stream. The Bronx is Reading presents Claribel A. Ortega, author of Ghost Squad and Bronx Native, in conversation with Marco Oshiro, Each of Us a Desert. So I'm going to kick it over to these two lovely folks, and they are going to be in conversation discussing all things. Enjoy.
I love it. We now have to talk about everything that's
all
ever
things.
existed for all time. First of all, hi, Claribel. I miss you so much.
I know. I miss your face.
This series, even though you disappeared into the ether. Hi, how are you this overcast Saturday morning? How are you doing?
I'm good. I was watching Dawson's Creek before.
Oh, excellent.
Again,
Yes.
for
Ooh,
like
a little
the 50th
flashback. I
time.
love that.
Yeah.
So to all of those who are attending, who are listening, who are watching us do our thing, this is how this is going to work. I have a whole bunch of discussion questions that I have for Claribel about writing, about Ghost Squad, about middle grade. Some of these are slightly chaotic because that's me. We will then do a lightning round, and the rules of the lightning round are your first impulsive answer. So you can't there's no explaining it for you. You just got to go. It's a lightning. And then
I'm going to say weird stuff. I can feel it.
Oh, I hope so, because the questions are not normal or fine at all. And then after that, I'm going to open it up to all of you who are attending. You can use the comment section, and I will go through it towards the end. Anytime you have a question, just drop it in there, and then I will go through at the last portion of this and go through and make sure that Claribel, I'm going to force Claribel to answer every question. So I want to start off with something kind of fun, which is that normally we would do let's read our bios, let's pitch our book, but I want everyone to know how wonderful you are and how wonderful Ghost Squad is. So I would like you to introduce yourself by telling us the one thing about you that summarizes you as a person. Like a story, something interesting about who you are. Just one thing what is the Claribel, concise Claribel?
Oh God, that's hard.
But you can do it.
The one story that describes me as a person. I guess the story of how me and Kat Cho became friends is a good one.
Hi, Kat, by the way.
Hi, Kat. Because so we became friends during DV Pit, right? So on Twitter. So first of all, Twitter, tick that off. That's the top thing about my personality. And so Kat, we both got a lot of attention on our pitches that day. We were so excited, and I kept seeing her pitch, and I was like, wow, that pitch is so cool. And Kat was I was like, wow, you did such a good job. And then she responded to me and she was like, I've been stalking your pitch all day. It's amazing. And I responded to her by saying, I know.
Oh my God. It's like that meme, the whole thing where someone's like, you're Beyonce. And she's like, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I am.
Yep. So I called at the time that I Han Solo'd Kat by saying I know.
Oh
and she that's how we became friends. And it's just really funny because I didn't even realize I was doing it in the moment. And that's been our relationship the whole time. And Kat is don't make me look bad. I'm not making you look bad. You look so sweet. I'm the one who looks like a dork.
Yeah. I think in this situation, Claribel, okay, it's fine. And then from your friendship, the two of you have not only been this wonderful, amazing force in Kidlit, you also started a podcast. Do you want to talk about your podcast real quick before we talk about Ghost Squad?
Yeah, so the podcast is another really funny thing, and I think I could have used this as my story as well. So when Kat was on submission with her book, Wicked Fox, she was freaking out. We went to the Outer Banks for her family vacation, which I was on, which is our friendship.
Yeah.
And Kat was freaking out. She was like, oh my God. And it had only been a couple months, and I was like, Kat, it hasn't been that long. I'm going to prove it to you. And to prove it to Kat that people were on submission for longer, I started an entire podcast.
I'm going to prove our friendship by, oh my God.
I was like, I bet you there's so many stories of struggle and like what people go through behind the scenes that they don't talk about, because there's so much,
Yeah, exactly.
especially with submission, there's so much that people don't talk about. And I was like, I want to do a podcast that like breaks that wide open and like talks about all of the like nitty gritty stuff. And then later on, you know, like she came on as co-host and it just works. But that's how it started. That's how the podcast started. And I really like it because it helps people feel less alone, which we need so much of that in publishing.
Exactly. And there's so much information. I mean, it's so weird that we work in an industry that is almost run by secrets. What, it's just so weird. Like, why is all this stuff a secret? Why don't we talk about this? So it's wonderful. I love what the two of you do, and I love being on your episode. I still get people messaging me like, "Who's the agency who ghosted you? Just tell me everything." And I'm like,
so good.
"Oh my God, I'm not gonna drag them right now. I'll do later." Okay, so I want to start also talking about Ghost Squad. So first of all, congratulations for this lovely, heartwarming, amazing book. It's out in the world, but let's just assume that there is someone here in our little chat. Oh, there it is. I'm also not mad, but like I ordered my copy from my local bookstore, Books Are Magic, and I got the notification yesterday that it would show up today at 5 p.m. And I'm like, no, I needed it for this event. But let's assume there's someone here who actually doesn't know what Ghost Squad is. Instead of pitching the story, I want to know who the parents of your book are. And the reason I ask this question is I just finished watching the show called Russian Doll, which I love. It's amazing. And
so
in
good.
it, Natasha Lyonne has that scene where she says that she is if Andrew Dice Clay and Marita from Brave had a baby. Her. So who are the parents of Ghost Squad?
I think that if Hocus Pocus and Ghostbusters had a baby, then it would be Ghost Squad.
It is. They had their little Dominican baby and it was Ghost Squad.
Yeah,
oh my God,
somehow.
It totally is.
Yeah.
So how do you see your influences, the things you read or watched growing up, or as an adult? How do you think those things affected what Ghost Squad became?
So I think it's like really like painfully obvious the things that I love, because I actually like name drop stuff like throughout the book. And one of the things that I really, really liked was stories about adventures, like Adventures in Babysitting and The Goonies, and like anything where like kids were like out late, not home, riding bikes, like in Stranger Things, like all of these really cool things that I really wasn't allowed to do because I lived in the inner city and it was not the safest place for a kid to be like wandering around by themselves. So to me, that was like escapist fantasy. Like kids just riding their bikes was escapist fantasy for me. And I never really let go of that. So when I wrote Ghost Squad, I really wanted it to be those stories that I grew up loving, but with kids that looked like me and had my cultural upbringing and my heritage, because I never got to do it and I never got to see it reflected back to me. So I always had to find like weird ways to like weasel my way into feeling like I related to one of the kids somehow. Like, oh, I relate with this, but it was always off. It was always like not quite like my story. So I wanted my story to be in Ghost Squad and have kids who, aren't allowed to have these adventures and who've never seen themselves in these adventures be able to see them and like say like, hey, you're valid and you're allowed to be a hero in stories too.
Yeah, because it's that complicated dance that we do where we find something that we love and enjoy, but we sort of have to twist ourselves into a pretzel in order to fit into the story.
Yes, absolutely. Like speaking of Dawson's Creek, like I remember identifying with Joey because she was a poor kid. And I was like, Joey's life is completely different from mine. Her upbringing is completely different from mine. But still, she has this thing that I have. And like, I was like, I identified so strongly with Joey Potter because she didn't have money. And like a lot of the kids around her did,
I guess I never really thought, because I grew up in a place where we had lots of like outdoors and you could go down to the river or whatever. But like living in a big city or in an inner city, all of those movies must have seemed super, like, could you imagine Stand By Me, but happening in New York? Like instead of going down to the river, they go to the Hudson. Like it's just not the same. Like, oh man, we're going to go to this rough park. It's Tompkins Square Park.
Well, because there's all these other implications.
Yeah, you're like, why are these 12-year-olds going to Tompkins Square Park in 1985? Okay, that's a whole. Ooh, right. That book. There's a middle grade. Okay, that's a dark middle grade. Anyway, so what is the basic, if you were to summarize, what is like the basic story to Ghost Squad?
So Ghost Squad is about 12-year-old Lucely Luna, whose dad runs a ghost tour. They're not doing well financially. And she actually lives in a haunted house, you would say, because the ghosts of her lost loved ones live on as ghosts / fireflies in an enormous willow tree in her backyard. The ghost of her grandmother gets sick. She becomes unresponsive. And in order to try to bring her back, Lucely decides to intone a spell that her and Sid find in a graveyard. And instead of helping her grandmother, they unleash a bunch of evil spirits onto the city of St. Augustine. And now they need to find the counter spell to reverse what they did. And they get a little bit of help from Sid's grandmother, Babette, who is a witch, or a little bit or a lot. Babette is like running the show, and from Babette's cat Chunk.
Yeah, I love Chunk so much. How do you feel like a book you wrote all these words is like in the world, not only in the world, but your name is like, how does it feel? Like this is, I've been watching you. That sounds creepy. That sounds like Superstar. But like I've been following you and watching this rise of you for so long, and like it's here.
Right. It feels so much cooler than I thought it was going to feel like, especially because like I have readers now all of a sudden, and I have people who are sending me messages about a book that I wrote and saying that it's helping them through quarantine and helping them feel less hopeless and like helping them escape.
Oh my God.
I know it's
That's
and
incredible.
you know, it was really obviously not.
You're wearing the perfect hoodie for this, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's just that's what I'm feeling. Emotion.
It's not the perfect time to debut a book, obviously, like that's an understatement, but what I have taken from it is that people need this kind of story right now. And to have parents tell me, my kid is hating the online learning that they're having to do, but the one time they're not complaining during the day is when we read Ghost Squad. Like teachers have told me that, like, because they're reading Ghost Squad with their classrooms. And to hear that is like, you know what? Maybe this is not how I pictured it, but I'm helping people, and that's what I wanted to do. So this is totally worth it for me.
That's surreal. I mean, but it's that thing, and like and I'm going to tell you this now because I'm like 2 years down the road from you, is that it doesn't ever get old. Like I never get jaded about that part, because you put something out in the world and you never have any idea what someone is going to do with it. Like I was on your Twitter. You have people already sending you fan art.
Oh my God, I've had fan art since before the book came out, which is
my God.
I have so much fan art of Chunk that I'm making a scrapbook of it because people send me stuff constantly. It's so good. The other day, an 8-year-old drew Chunk and a ghost and a firefly, and then and it said, "Please turn over." On the other side, it said, "I lost my tooth while I was making this."
Oh my God.
Amazing.
They're so
amazing.
Because really, I think that's one of the great things about writing kid lit is I feel like there are like two classes of interactions. You're going to get that, which is just going to shatter your heart because they're like, it's so pure and so beautiful. And then you will also get the 12-year-old who will rip your soul out of your body because they're basically a therapist and they don't know it. So I can't wait for that to start happening too, where someone just, these kids reading your book. Kids are reading your book, Claribel.
I know, it is the weirdest thing, and it's such a good feeling. I feel really happy and like lucky that I get to do this, and it's been my dream since I was a little girl. Like I've always wanted to write, so it happened, and that is really wild. It's really, really cool.
What was younger Claribel the writer like? What sort of stories were you writing? What sort of things were you doing?
I was writing love stories 150%. Everything was about princes and princesses and kissing. I was writing a lot of poetry, a lot of song lyrics about my feelings.
Yes, good.
Yes, I was just very overly dramatic. Okay, so I originally, one of my big dreams, aside from being a writer, was I wanted to be a theater actress. So I was a huge theater kid. I did tons of plays. I did lots of musicals in school, like growing up. So I was dramatic, like at all times as a child.
I don't know how we've not had a conversation about this because I also did musical theater and plays in high school.
I'm not surprised.
Wait,
I mean,
okay, now I gotta ask, what was your favorite role that you ever did in school?
So I was Sonia in Godspell, and that was my favorite role.
Why can I picture like teenage Claribel? And, oh my God.
It was so.
I'm broken.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. I insisted on adding.
Oh, you guys got to do Godspell?
Yeah, you got to do Godspell.
What? We were only ours were only like the classics, like musicals written from like 1940 to like 1970. We were never allowed to do anything remotely contemporary at all.
Well, Godspell's from the 70s, isn't it, or 60s? It's pretty old.
I thought it was 70s. Either way, 70s. It's a little too transgressive. Like it's just a little bit too.
It's a lot.
Okay, maybe not a little. It's a lot. That is amazing. Oh my! I talk about this from time to time, and I'm now going to introduce this very cursed idea to you, because everyone I tell to is like, I hate that I know this. Is that I was Harold Hill in The Music Man?
No, you weren't. That was my first Broadway play. The music.
I simultaneously love that musical because it's weirdly transgressive too. Like it has all the stuff in it that you're just like, how did they ever get away with this at the time it was made? I also hate trouble. I can't even hear the word trouble anymore, and I get triggered into this deep place because that song is one of the hardest songs in the world to learn. There's no human talks like that. We don't know. Terrible. So there you go. I was Harold Hill.
Oh my God.
Anyway, okay. So
yeah, I'm gonna ask for pictures later. Just
so
you know.
True story. There is a video cassette tape of my entire opening night performance, and one of my exes has it in a storage unit in Phoenix, Arizona. And I recently reconnected with him, which has been.
I think Mark froze. I think Mark is frozen. I'm not sure if I am, but I'm going to text him and let him know. Can you guys tell me if Mark is frozen?
Wait, you're back. Okay.
Yeah.
He's back. He's back.
Sorry. I don't know what happened. I was just like, hey, I'm talking into the void. Okay. So yeah, I just recently reconnected with an ex, and he was like, you know what? I let him borrow it because he was a huge musical theater fan. He watched it and was like, I'm changed. I didn't even know this was a whole part of you. And then like it wasn't a bad breakup or anything, but he just forgot he had it. And then just recently was like, okay, once this pandemic is over and I can go get it, I'm going to send it to you. And then I will digitize it and we will all watch this.
Oh my God, you should put it on YouTube and we should do a live watch.
Absolutely.
Like all of us.
Yep, absolutely. So all of this is leading to a very specific question, which is that I love your influences. I love how you took from all of these experiences and pieces of art that you enjoy to write the story. So why middle grade? Was that always intentional from the start? Like, did you specifically say, I'm writing this story for this age group? Did it start as something else and then become, how did you end up in the middle grade space?
So it wasn't intentional. I wanted to write YA. I still do write YA. But the story of Ghost Squad sort of fell into my lap, like came to me, and the story was a middle grade story. I think it depends on like the voice and the content. And like once I started writing middle grade, it was like, oh, this is my home. Like I belong here. I love middle grade so much. It comes so much more naturally to me because I still have like a really like, I'm a big kid at heart, and like I still have like that, like a lot of hope and like the sense of wonder about things. And I think that's very solidly middle grade, where YA has become like a lot more jaded in a lot of different ways. And that's also part of me, and that's also fine. But like I feel like when I write middle grade, it's like soothing for me, and it feels like a balm as opposed to the YA that I write. So the YA that I write is like very different than the middle grade that I write.
Do you find on a craft level that what's the big difference between writing a middle grade novel and a young adult novel? Do you feel like you actually approach the literal writing differently?
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot more detail that goes into the plot for YA, especially for like fantasy. Like there's a lot more like building that you have to do of like the world. Whereas with Ghost Squad, I was just kind of like, this exists. I don't know.
Deal with it. Well, I think the younger you are, the more predisposed you are to just believe what a story tells you. Like,
Right.
I find that people who nitpick world building tend to be older. They're the ones who want all the details. They want all the little bits.
Right.
Whereas you could just be like, magic exists, and the kid's like, okay, and then what?
Right. And I think that should be okay across the board sometimes. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes we get so bogged down with like, but why does it work like this? And it's like, well, let's just maybe let the story play out, because maybe those details aren't that important. And I think that's a really big aspect of magical realism as well, which is you know, some people have said that Ghost Squad has like inklings of that, and that was definitely not an intentional thing. And but I just really like the idea that Babette is a witch, and there's rumors about it, and it's not a big deal. And Sid knows that it's true, but it's not like we have to keep it a secret. It's like, it's just what it is in this world. And I feel like that makes it, the possibilities behind that, so much bigger and cooler.
Right. I also wonder how much of that commentary about Ghost Squad and magical realism, not to get spicy on Maine, but I'm going to get spicy on Maine, is because of the community that we're part of, and people automatically associate any fantastical thing that Latinx people write as magical realism. Like
100%,
as someone who just wrote a book where I was actually trying to do magical realism, and I'm worried how many people are not going to think of what magical realism is in our history and in our community, and what role it has played both in just creating some of the best fiction imaginable, but also making commentary on some very real world stuff. Like, I don't know that people understand that there's a reason magical realism existed. Like,
right. It's not just like random magic for the sake of it. It like has to do with like colonialism.
Whoops, that little thing.
It's like there's so much more that goes into it, and I mean, I think that definitely does happen because I'm brown. I mean, but somebody also called Ghost Squad the Mexican Scooby-Doo, which exactly. There is ne'er a Mexican in this book, but
well, also there's not like a really high dude and a talking dog. Like, let's not go down that path, because now I'm just imagining, I'm like, how would that work in middle grade? That's terrible. We're not into that. Throughout the various drafts, because I love hearing this from authors too, of like what you intended with the story, what it started as, and then what it sort of becomes. Because at least for me, and I feel like this is the way with you, every project you work on very rarely ends up the same thing at the end. So I'm curious. I looked at through the various drafts. What is one thing? Yeah, I had a brain fart. What is one thing that always remained in Ghost Squad, and what is one thing that was lost to editing that you miss?
Ooh, one thing that always remained is definitely Sid and Lucely's friendship. Like, that was a constant from the very beginning. Their friendship was really strong.
Yeah.
Babette wasn't as big of a part of it in the beginning, and she sort of like rammed her way into the story. And one thing that I wish was still there, I don't know that we cut anything that I felt like didn't need to be cut, to be quite honest with you. I feel like everything was really good. And the things that I felt strongly about, thankfully, like my editor, Jeffrey, was like, you know, we can keep it. And they were very good about like all of the cultural stuff that I was like insistent upon. So I feel really lucky. There wasn't like one scene where I'm like, well, actually, wait, there is one scene. There is one scene we didn't really need it, okay? But it was really funny, and it's Sid and Lucely stealing a magic book because they can't afford it. And like, Sid is
crime.
like
12-year-olds do crime.
yeah, Sid is like smooth talking the shop guy as like Lucelli like takes this enormous like magic book,
Yeah.
and then they like run off like
Oh.
screaming on their bikes. Like it was really funny. Maybe I can release it as like an extra or something later.
You know what? That feels like so much in the spirit of all of those like childhood adventure movies where they did things like that, and you're like, oh my God, they did this horrible illegal thing, but they got away with it, and it was for a good reason. So it's like, I love that. That's
and it was also
amazing.
so funny. So who cares?
Yeah. So what is like, because I love talking shop with other authors, especially because I feel like we don't often get to just do this. So what is one thing you know now? You've written, I mean, at this point you've written more than just this novel, but like you have a novel that is done, it's out in the world. So what is the thing you know now about writing a novel that you didn't know when you started this?
I didn't know that every novel was going to be a different process, and that not every
Okay.
so I thought it was like, okay, this is my process, like this is how I write, like I sit down and I do things, and there are like certain things that I do, like I make a playlist before I start writing. I have to have a title before I start writing.
Yep.
Like, but the mechanics of actually writing the book, like it changes from book to book, and I can't really know what the process is going to be until I like dive into it. And I thought I was going to be able to be more methodical about it, where sometimes it's chaotic, and that's okay. Sometimes I need that chaos to make the book what it's supposed to be.
Oh my God. That's such a good, do you find that there are like, is there a single thing or maybe a couple things that you do tend to do when you're writing, even if the other parts end up being chaotic? Are there certain parts of your specific process that you're like, like you mentioned, like you need a title, like you need a title to have the theme. I'm with you on the playlist thing. I have so many private playlists, mood playlists. I have my like sad playlist, my angry playlist, my happy playlist, my no words instrumental play, like very important, very important.
Yeah.
What other things do you say?
So one thing that I definitely do is for my first draft, I used to take forever because I was going backwards and reading things over. And now I just write straight through. Like I don't let myself look at the old stuff unless it's like, I can't remember where this character is, so I need to like reference it. But before I would be like, before I start writing, I need to read the last 3 chapters that I wrote to sort of like understand where I am. Whereas now I'm just like, nope, I'm just going to sit here and like write what needs to happen in this next scene. And I'm not going to let myself get caught up, because then I get caught up in revising the last 3 chapters that I wrote and then I never finish. So now I just sort of like go for it and write it, and whatever messiness comes out of it, it happens, and then I fix it later. And I think it's hard to sort of like let yourself just do that. Like give yourself permission to just like write what you need to write and tell the story to yourself first before you tell it to anybody else, because there's going to be a lot of things that your readers don't need to know, you know?
Yeah.
And you figure that out later. And it's hard for me because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to doing things that are my own. I want them to be really good. But I have to let the emotion out in my writing initially for my first draft.
Right. Oh my God. Why did they let us do this together? It's chaos.
I don't know.
Do you find that you actually have like a favorite part of writing and maybe a not so favorite part of writing?
I love revising. I really love revising.
Best answer.
Because especially because if I'm holding myself back from like going back and reading, like I really want to go back and read. So when I'm revising, it's like my moment to like do that. One thing that I hate is timelines. I suck at timelines. Like the amount of times Jeffrey had to be like, this happened 2 days ago, and like you said Halloween was like 5 days. Like he had to like make notes, like if this is this day, it's Friday this day, and like and I confused myself. So timelines are hard for me. I have a hard time with like time in general, like whatever. But so I think that's the hardest thing for me to like make it make sense.
I also have the same problem with Anger is a Gift. My first book, my copy editor pointed out that I skipped the day Wednesday. every week. Like the book takes place over a month, and every week it would just go from Tuesday to Thursday. And they were like, "Do you have a problem with Wednesday? Is it triggering? What is going on? Why are there no Wednesdays? What universe is it that there's not a
They were
Wednesday?"
like, did you mean to do?
So I thought I was going to take care of this. So each of us, a desert takes place over very short period of time. So I was like, I know exactly. No, I still messed it up. So there was a point towards the end where it was like, you just said it was night and now it's day, like an hour later, but it's like the beginning of night. How does it? And I'm like, no, I don't. Time is an illusion, everyone. It's an
Time
illusion.
is fake.
So specific time is so fake right now. I have no sense of what anything. Anyway, so specifically for Ghost Squad, I one of the things I really like is that it manages to combine some pretty heavy emotional themes, while also, you know, like especially the stuff around grief and death. I'm never gonna forgive you for the firefly thing. I see fireflies and I think about fireflies and I just get so
Yeah.
and it still has that sense of like adventure. It's still extremely funny. So like, how did you approach that sort of story? What challenges did you face as you were trying to find a balance between those two things?
So I like sort of just naturally write with humor in mind all the time, because like that is how I live my life. So I'm always writing jokes, and like I sort of had to make sure that there was a balance of both things. But it wasn't really that challenging for me. I would say the challenge was like not making it too scary. We did have to like cut some stuff that was like a little too scary for kids. But I just sort of wrote what I felt was like true to my own life and like true to my own upbringing, which is like people being emotional and like crying and like having a lot of feelings and things to say, but also like making jokes about everything, especially to get through hard times. So it's sort of like a bomb. Like when you're suffering, like you make jokes because it helps you get through that stuff. And also with kids in mind, like I don't want them to just be sad reading this book. I want them to be happy, and I want them to realize that, you know, death obviously sucks so much, but it's part of life. And if someone had talked to me about it when I was younger, I think I would have been able to deal with it better as I got older. So I think Mark froze again. Mark, he froze. He looks like he's in awe of my face, but really he's just frozen. He told me he froze again. I'm sure he'll be back soon. How is everybody in the chat doing? You guys are okay. Kat is over here asking a bunch of questions. Okay, you're back.
I want you to know there's a little message when that happens. It says, it seems there's a trouble with your connection. Move closer to your router or connect with an Ethernet cable. What? How? What?
Who has an Ethernet? Who has an Ethernet cable?
Oh, yeah, who has that cable? Anyway, what was I going to ask you? Wait, let me go back to my question. So I'm actually very fascinated about this. So I just finished writing my first middle grade book, and it has no scary, I don't think it has anything scary in it, but I'm actually very fascinated by this idea of like there are some really creepy scenes in Ghost Squad. So how do you actually determine that line of like what seems scary? Is it like too scary for the sake of it? Or is it like, this is too scary, but we could still tell the same story without going like this far deep into the path? Or how does that work?
So I think that for me, it was the part that was like the scariest for me to even write was like the ghosts in Ghost Squad actually start reliving their deaths. So they start like sort of like reenacting their deaths in a way. And there was one death that was like a violent one, and there was a lot of blood involved, and that's when they were like, okay, this is like, I guess, too gory. It was like too gory, like too much blood. And like that made it too scary because there was already the element of like, they're already reliving their deaths. Like that part alone is already like super freaking creepy. So to add an extra element of like violence on top of that might be like too much for the moment. So we definitely were like, okay, we're going to take that out. And we changed it so that it was like an illness instead of like violence. But I think like doing too much with like an already scary moment was something that I had to like be conscious of, you know, like this is already creepy because they're ghosts, okay? And
Right.
I like whether or not they're friendly or like friends with the main character, like we are not used to that. So I have to keep that in mind.
Well, I like that too, because I think people have this sort of misconception about what editing is, that our editors tell us, you can't do this thing, and they're censoring us. Where I think of it, and the way that it sounds like you approached it, is that it's just like giving you a new writing prompt, which is we want to achieve this same thing, and we want this,
Right.
like it has to be creepy that they're reliving their deaths, or else what's the motivation to want to help them? Like that, it's a
Right.
really component, but you can still achieve that without having to do this other thing.
Right. Like I want to scare the kids, but I don't want to
Yeah.
traumatize them. And I think that there is like a difference there, you know, like I
Yeah.
want them to be scared. If they're going to have a nightmare, it happens. I had a lot of nightmares. It's payback
Yeah.
time. So, but we don't want them to be scarred for life. Like I don't want them to not want to read spooky books ever again because this one like really like scared them too much, you know?
But then I think about like movies as I watched as a kid, like The Neverending Story. Quicksand is terrifying. Like I can't, like that scarred me. I have not rewatched that movie in like 20 years. Like I
Yeah.
can't, I'm so afraid of watching that scene again. And like, no.
Yeah. Well, I think that like I have anxiety because a lot of the things that I watched when I was younger, because I was always worried about like my surroundings. Like it definitely
Right.
contributed to it. And like we watched so many scary things when we were young. Like Return to Oz. Are you kidding me? Like,
Oh my
no,
God.
thank you.
That is a visual nightmare. Every second of it is a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Return to Oz is on Disney Plus, by the way, if anybody wants to watch it.
If anyone is interested in some quarantine re-traumatization, you can go and watch this film. Are you also, I just gotta ask, are you slightly distracted by how funny everyone is in the chat right now? Like
Yeah.
there
They're
was a
just
comment
having
earlier.
their own party.
It's like we're watching a parallel universe, and they're being as funny or funnier than us. Including at one point, Ryan LaSala said "Trigger warning Wednesday," and I had to keep it together because I almost started crying.
I saw that too.
Hi friends, you're all so lovely. This is a
Yay.
delight. So for any aspiring authors, particularly those for the youths, because this is what we do. We write in service of the youth. What advice would you like to give anyone who is a young reader, who is a young writer, that's interested in maybe pursuing fiction or is trying to do it now and struggling? Particularly, I want to know, like, what do you think would have helped younger Claribel?
I think that it would have helped me if I had started earlier and like sort of learning everything. And like I think the reason why I didn't was because I didn't think it was possible for somebody like me to be an author. Like I like even at my school, like we had school visits and we had authors come to my school and they never looked like us. They were like older white people and they always like drove in from Westchester and like they felt like foreigners to me. They felt so completely different than I was that I was like, wow, this is so cool. But I never believed that that could actually be me. And I think that look to the people who inspire you, look to the people who come from the places where you come from. I come from Hunts Point. Hunts Point is one of the most dangerous places in the Bronx when I was growing up. It's a wonderful community, but it's by no means like an easy place for you to sort of thrive when you live there. You know, when you're living there, there were a lot of obstacles that were put in my way, and I would have never thought that I was going to be able to break out of that and become an author and write books.
Right.
But I want them to know, like, as impossible as it feels, it's not impossible. You can 100% do it. You are going to come across more obstacles than you probably realize. It's going to be really hard, but finding your community and finding people that you can trust and vent to and sort of get advice and guidance from is really important. And you do that by just like being part of the book world and participating in the discussions. You
Right.
don't have to participate in the discussions that we have every 2 weeks over and over again and fight. You don't, but you can talk
You
about
mean the
book that
list of like
you-
5 topics that Kidlit just argues
Yeah.
about on Twitter?
No more. You
By the
can
way,
talk
that's
about
that's
Yeah.
the 5 lightning round questions. It's just those 5 topics over and over
no.
again.
I
Claribel,
will
how do you
put
feel
my-
about
No.
coffee? No, okay. Well, I want to sort of transition this to a talk about this community, and like one of the things that's interesting, like I found out about you because of DV Pit. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about DV Pit, but then also what is it about this community that's helped you get you to where you are? Because you're right. Like I think one of the reasons it took me so long is to publish a book or get a book published is that I also didn't know this was here. I didn't know there were all these resources and ways to learn to write and ways to learn how to get an agent or anything. So how has this process like been for you, being involved in the Kidlit community?
So it was definitely like a slower process. Like I had been on Twitter sort of like watching for a while from like 2014.
Yeah.
So it did take some time because it's intimidating. Like you see all of these people like having these like really intense discussions and it's just like, am I supposed to like jump in? But finding your footing and like taking your time is okay. DV Pit was a great opportunity because it's not just about finding an agent. Like obviously that's what you would hope. But like I said, me and Kat met because we commented on each other's pitches and we became friends. And like, that was such a cool way to find a friend because when you like finding writer friends is very intense because you automatically have this like very specific and intense interest in common. And you're sharing these things with each other that people in your normal life that don't sort of write or know anything about publishing, they're not going to understand. So the friendships sort of like, they're very like fast tracked sometimes, which you also should be careful about. Take your time to get to know people because not everybody is great. But for the most part, like people are really caring and kind and want to help others. And the community is, I wouldn't be here. Nobody would know about Ghost Squad. I would have all these readers and all this support if it wasn't for the community. And I'm so grateful for it. And like, that's definitely a big part of why I'm a writer.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love it. So before we move into lightning round and before I want to open it up to everyone, because we've already had a number of questions that I'm ready to highlight and make us answer. I want to, if you can, what can you share with us about what you have coming out, what you're working on, anything that's sort of in the pipeline? I know there's one that's called Frizzy that I would like to know a little bit more about. But can you please let the people know what is coming from Claribel Ortega?
Yes, sure. So Frizzy is a graphic novel that's coming from First Second in 2022, and it's about a young Dominican girl who is learning to embrace her curly hair for the first time in her life. Hair is a big deal in our community, and that's why we have so many salons. So really,
I miss salons. I miss barbershops. So. By the way, I believe that I become more powerful every day that I don't cut my hair. I am now
I like it.
I like it too, but I'm now like king of the gays because all my gay and queer friends have shaved their heads, and I'm like the only one. And they're like, "When's the day you're gonna cut it, Mark?" And I'm like,
"Just do it. You'll come out with like a long, like flowing."
Can we have the weirdest tangent real quick before we continue on this, which is that I am preparing for the day in which I have to actually shave my hair. Like this is actually pretty long. It's probably like 4 or 5 inches, which I don't really grow it out this long because this is a lot to handle. I have very thick hair. So before, like literally the week before the pause thing happened in New York, I was like, I should buy a clip. They're sold out because I don't have any here because I go to a barbershop. They were sold out everywhere except for one pair of, they're right, literally right here. Very professional, like Oster professional clippers. They had one pair left on AliExpress, and I bought it. And I was like, this isn't going to be that bad when it shows up. And the only pair of hair clippers they had, limited edition. No two clippers are exactly the same. Rasta themed. Hair clips. Who? I know who they think they're marketing this to. I have, these are. I still haven't used them. Not only because I'm afraid. Like, am I racist for using these? Like, what? The only one? I mean, Oster. This is a really, really, very solid set of clippers. But I'm just afraid. I'm like, am I culturally appropriating for using these clippers? So anyway,
you can never throw that out. Like,
oh, never. I'm going to keep those for the rest of my life. They're incredible. Wait, okay, so you've got Frizzy. Do you have anything else that you're working on or can hint at that you're doing?
So I'm part of the Latinx anthology, which we are both a part of. So we are doing that one, and I'm also part of this queer middle grade anthology called "This Is Our Rainbow."
Oh, me too.
Yeah, so we're just doing anthologies together. And then I am like, I'm on submission. I don't care. YOLO. Like, I'll tell everybody with another middle grade series, which is really good. And I'm crossing my fingers because I could use some good news.
Yeah, absolutely. All editors in New York. There you go. This is what we need. We need more middle grade from Claribel. All right. It is lightning round time.
I'm so scared.
So everyone who's watching, I actually didn't send any of these questions to Claribel. And Claribel, you knocked it out of the park because you're amazing and wonderful and brilliant. I'm sorry for only half of these. Because if you've ever seen me host an event, I love coming up with lightning round questions that are just chaotic, as I am.
I'm so scared.
Gotta go with your first answer, whatever it is. You can't. I feel bad because I did this I did an event with NK Jemisin and Sarah Gailey, and we did a lightning round to start with, and our lightning round lasted half an hour because we're terrible people. So this cannot last half an hour because there are a bunch of questions we need to get to. So, ready? I wish I had like a buzzer or like drums or something. Anyway, number one, favorite thing you've binged recently?
Favorite thing I've binged recently, Tiger King.
I'm
sorry.
Why do you apologize? I feel like there's almost nothing that we can watch during this pandemic or binge that you're like, oh, I'm sorry I watched it. No, it's all fine. All right. Number two, your favorite story about Pancho.
Okay, one time I was sitting with David. We were watching something, and Pancho is very small. So he walked across my laptop screen, opened up a Word document, and typed "sad?" ? Yeah.
Your dog dragged you. Like, hey, hey, are you sad?
And me and David looked at each other like, what just happened?
That's not at all what I expected, and I deeply love that story. I feel like that's the story you should have told. What is the story that's quintessentially you? Oh, your dog dragged you. Yep.
Yeah.
Your dog. I'm very concerned. I'm writing you a letter and I'm sending it to your therapist. So.
Yeah.
All right. Number three, funniest thing you've ever seen on Twitter.
Oh my God. Okay, so lightning round. So I don't know if this is the funniest thing, but I saw it earlier today and I couldn't stop laughing, which someone was like, I knew Twitter was a lawless place when someone posted their flight confirmation and somebody else called and canceled it.
I saw that tweet too. I laughed so hard. It is the most Twitter thing. Everything about it is all you need to know about Twitter. Oh my God, that's so good. All right, okay. Number four. A book you read. What is a book you read that was so good you wish you had written it?
Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Oh, that's super. Okay. This is a would you rather. So you got to choose from one of the two.
Oh my God.
Would you rather get one paper cut a day that heals at the end of the day, or spend every quarantine in a house full of clowns?
I'll get the paper cuts.
You said that with so much defeat in your voice. There was no joy when you said that. You're like, I guess I'll do the paper cut. I mean, I feel like that's the only right answer because clowns are the worst.
I hate
Oh my
clowns.
God. I hate clowns so much.
I
And
hate
feel
clowns,
like-
especially because in pre-K, we had a Halloween parade and I was a clown and I was so happy and excited for my costume because I looked so cute and all the kids were laughing at me the entire day. And by the end of the day, I was like crying. So my clown makeup had melted and I was so sad. And I was like, I never want to know about clowns again.
I'm sorry for laughing at Lily's neck, but the image of like, oh my God, of a child with makeup and it's, oh God, that's so much. All right, okay. Number 6, and you can't choose me. Who is the most chaotic author in all of Kidlit?
Ryan LaSala.
I honestly wrote that just to set that up because I figured Ryan would be here. Yep, yeah. Let's twist it a little bit. Which Kidlit author is most closely like Chunk?
Oh my gosh. Which Kidlit author is mostly like Chunk? I'm gonna go ahead and say my friend. No, wait, he doesn't write Kidlit. He writes adult. Oh, this is hard. I'm just gonna say Kat.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, who is the adult author?
Oh, Michael Mamey, who wrote Planetside, because he says very
one.
little.
Yeah. Okay.
When he says it.
So everyone is losing it in the chat because he said Ryan LaSala so quickly with no hesitation at all. Okay. I hate that I have to do this, but I'm going to make you choose. Number 8. What is your favorite Dominican food? You have to choose one.
Fried cheese.
Oh, that's a good one. I missed all of it. All of it.
Yeah.
Claribel.
I mean, if it's either fried cheese or salchichon, and
mango. I love mango. I can't have. There's nowhere near me where I could ostensibly get it because I'm in a part of Brooklyn that has no Dominicans. So I miss living in the Heights because I could at least go get takeout, but I miss all of it.
I wish I could send you some. We've been eating mango like crazy during quarantine.
I really just need to learn how to make it.
Oh my God.
It's
Mark,
so easy.
It's so easy. It's like making mashed potatoes.
Easy. It's so
easy. The key is to make a mojo, which is you put a little bit of vinegar with chopped onions and salt in a plate and let that marinate, and then you saute that and you put that over the mashed plantains, and that is what gives it like the special kick. But I can send you YouTube tutorials from Chef Z, who is the best, and she will teach you how to make it. It's really good.
Did you link them recently? I swear you did. I saw some videos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I just haven't, like, when I was living I was in the Heights for like a year and a half. I just never bothered to learn how to make any food because I was like, I could just go one block and have like the best Dominican food of my life. Why am I going to learn how to make it when someone else can do it? All right. Okay. This is one of my favorite chaos lightning round questions. Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Well, I'm going to say 100 duck-sized horses because I feel like I could kick them.
Yeah,
I have strong legs.
Right.
What am I gonna do with the horse?
Well,
horses
I feel
are
the
big.
Same way.
Horses are big, bro.
And terrifying. Horses have an ancient knowledge that we are not party to, and I don't trust them. I love horses, but like I just know they're aliens. I always say the same answer because you just kick. It's 100 of them. What are they going to do? You just kick them, whatever. And then I asked the same question to Sarah Gailey, and they said, no, I would choose the duck-sized horse. And I said, why? And they said, because when I beat it, I get to like have the pride that I beat a horse-sized duck. And I was like, that presupposes a lot of things, but I believe that you could. I believe you could do that. I could
love
not.
They're thinking about like the victory of it. I'm just like trying to survive.
Right. That's my. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So, what is a book you would read again with a memory wipe? Like you could wipe your memory that you had ever read it, and you get to experience it for the first time again.
Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Yeah. Because that book is so good, and the twist is so like, what?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Oh, I gotta reread those books. Oh man. Okay. All right. That's real good. All right. What is your best or favorite writing snack?
There's these little wafer lemon cookies that you can only get at like random places. Like I found them at
Yeah.
Marshall's once. I don't know, but they are so good. They're my favorite. My mom always sends them to me, and I just really like eating them.
I love that it's such a random thing to find that sometimes you can only find them at Marshall's, which is where I go for all my food. I go there for all my grocery shopping. It's Marshall's. I had a 12th question, and I don't know what it was because all I wrote is, would you rather only be able to eat? And then that's it. I did not write the rest of it last night. Would you rather only be able to eat all your foods as a liquid, or you could only have food from your local bodega after it was dropped on the floor?
I'll eat the floor food.
I don't know where I came up with that. That's chaos. Beautiful. Perfect answer to the question. I wouldn't care. Like, that's fine. Like, you can
5-second rule.
Okay. Oh my God. There are so many comments that I can't actually go back to the old, super older ones. So I'm going to ask if you have a question to please include it in the chat. I'm going to be asking them of Claribel. There's a lot of people saying that I need to post videos of me from the music band. So anyway,
I agree with them.
We are going to do which question?
Only eat or only drink?
Would you only eat or only drink?
I guess only eat. I mean,
you can eat things that would hydrate you, right? It would be weird, but
yeah.
I assume this doesn't presuppose that we would die. Like, we're not in a world where we would die without hydration.
Right, because I'm like, I need water.
Then I would choose only drink for survival, because I could at least, yeah. I have to now introduce a terrible concept with you, which is the other day I saw a thread about, like, tell me your burrito opinions. And a person on Beyonce's internet said that the best burrito in the world is a, quote, perfectly blended Taco Bell bean burrito.
Blended? Like in the blender?
I have never known peace since I read this tweet, because a bunch of people asked them, excuse me, did you mean, and they never followed up.
Okay, I respect that so much. Like, I love when people just like drop a thing that makes everybody lose their mind on Twitter, and then it's just like,
forever.
Bye.
Okay, are you a visual writer, Claribel? Kat was talking about this, like Kat says, I love other people's Pinterest boards, but I never make my own. Same. And then I get sad that I don't have one. Same. So are you a visual writer?
Absolutely. I'm a very visual writer. As I write, I'm picturing everything to the point where I make like weird like movements like as I write, because like I'm picturing like what's happening. Like the other day I was writing and I just started going like this, like at my computer, and like sometimes David would just be looking at me like
I love doing that stuff in public, like hey, do you remember being able to be in public? Sorry. But like I would do that too, like when I'm writing, like at a cafe, sometimes I'll be mouthing, like trying to make the facial expression, and then I'll look up, someone's looking at me like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, for sure. I'm a very visual writer. Ryan with his
how do we ban Ryan from I like how we also got 2 questions in rapid succession. All right, Mark, what is the last book that made you cry?
Mine was actually Spinning Silver by Naomi Novak. I read it in isolation, like in quarantine, and there's a scene where she's describing people sort of emerging from a long winter and going back out into the world, and I started sobbing. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, that's a good one. My answer is I'm gonna have to look up when it's out. I know it's out sometime this year. It's called We Are Not From Here by Jenny Sanchez Torres. I think it. Oh my God! It is the most incredible young adult book about three teenagers who decide to flee to the United States. It is brilliantly written and there's a whole scene where I just sobbed for basically like the last 100 pages. Like it is just brilliant, and I'm so excited for it to come out. But it's gonna ruin you if you read it. I'm just warning you. So.
Oh no.
Yep, it's so good. Ridiculous blog. Hello. Oh wait, we'll do Elena and then we'll do ridiculous. The most important piece of advice you have for someone that is querying.
Do your research. Do your research and don't rush. Two very important things.
Both of those things as well. Like figure out who you actually want to be querying. Don't just send your book to literally everyone. I made a Google spreadsheet where when I did my research, I wrote down the agents or whatever. I would also recommend spacing it out. Don't send all of your queries on one day. I would only send like 3 or 4 a week, and I had it spread over a couple months. That way you weren't getting 5 rejections on the same day. But also like it was an evolving thing. I felt like I got better, and that my queries towards the end of that were actually better than the ones at the beginning. Because I learned from other agents' rejections.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's smart too. And when I say don't rush, I mean both in the process and in actually writing your book. I think the biggest number one mistake that newer writers make is getting impatient and wanting to query really badly, and then their book is not really ready yet. And just take your time and make sure that the book is the best that it can be to the best of your ability.
So Ridiculous Blog says, what childhood books inspired your writing for Ghost Squad, Claribel?
What childhood books? I would say I didn't really read a lot of childhood spooky books except for all of the Goosebumps books, like every single one of them that was available to me, and Fear Street. So it would have to be those, because it was that and then it was Stephen King. So there was like no in between. Back then, like there was nowhere to go to from like after Goosebumps and Fear Street. It was just like, and now here is something that's going to traumatize you. So so I would definitely say Goosebumps for me as a child. As an adult, I have books that have inspired me. I read The Westing Game when I was older. Really love that book. Also, the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend is exquisite middle grade. Everybody, please, please, please read that series because it's one of my favorites. I really like it.
I deeply relate to this too, especially if you were interested in horror, because I did the same thing. I read the Goosebumps books. Fear Street was great. And then we just jumped.
Mark loves to freeze. Hi, everyone. Mark is gone. This is the Claribel Show now. I feel like I have one of those weird YouTube channels.
Do you know how long I was talking? I thought you were looking at me very interestedly, like, oh, I'm going to lean in to listen to Mark talk. And then about a solid 30 seconds in, I was like, oh, you haven't heard a single word I said.
No.
I did the same thing as you. I jumped from Goosebumps to Fear Street, and then I read It by Stephen King.
No,
as a child.
No,
what is wrong
that's
with me?
One of the
I
worst
loved it,
ones
but
to read.
One of the
so
worst.
Scary.
Oh, Katie G just asked a question that is so chaotic. What's the worst question you've ever gotten at a school event?
So okay, I haven't really done many school events yet, so I don't have an answer to this. I would say like maybe like they've like kids have asked like, how old are you? I guess it's like, I don't want to tell you I'm old. But I haven't really gotten bad questions yet because I haven't done a lot of school events. I didn't get to because of the everything. I'm sure Mark has some though.
Oh, you're gonna get to these events and they're gonna happen. And I want you to know, I moved most of like school, all my school visiting to Zoom, Google Hangouts, all that sort of stuff. And kids there's no change in how chaotic they are at all. I did an event yesterday, and after every question, I just was like, are you guys my therapist? What is going on? These are also like cutting like extremely deep. So the worst question, I would say there's two ends of the spectrum, because worst question can be like actually terrible. Generally speaking, kids are never terrible. It's the adults. Like it's usually a teacher or a librarian in the room who actually asks the worst question. I once did a school visit outside of Chicago, where some kid thought it was really funny when I introduced myself and said I was queer, and he started laughing, and I just looked at him very pointedly, and I was like, "Yes, what's funny?" And he was like, "Oh, that's a funny word. Are you like gay, bro?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm extremely gay." And he immediately got so uncomfortable. He was like, "Oh, I thought you were joking." And I was like, "Why? Why would you think I was joking about that?" And you could tell he was suddenly like, "Oh, I didn't want to be in the center of this. Like, I don't." And I was like, "That's not funny. What's funny about it?" And then I started laughing. I was like, "I'm just playing with you." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "No, but I am super gay. Like that is the thing. Like that's not a joke or whatever like that." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It was just like an instinctual reaction." I was like, "We are going to talk about it." And we ended up having this whole conversation about, he was like, "Well, why would you call yourself queer?" And I was like, "Let's go. Let's have rainbow talk." On the opposite end of the spectrum, I had a kid ask me, "I really liked your book. Were you a lonely teenager?" It was like, huh, what? And they were like, I just feel like you were maybe like a lonely teenager. And I was like, I was. Yes, absolutely. Because that's the beautiful thing about writing for kids, is that question wasn't mean. There was no ill intent. They were just like, I feel something. I felt so much from this book, and I feel like maybe there's a whole bunch of you in it. And I was like, you're correct. It just didn't have to punch me in the heart when you asked it. So
I love that though.
It's great. We had a great conversation.
Like with the sad across my keyboard.
Same energy, exact same energy. Great. What actors would you have previously and Sid in a movie for Moto Poet Society?
I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I would love Lucelli to be a Dominican kid. So I don't really know any kid Dominican actors. And in terms of Sid, like, I feel like all the kids who would have played her are probably older now. So maybe like two unknowns like that nobody knows about, and like up and coming like fresh child actors, but we'll see. I would really love for Lucelli to be a Dominican actor though, but I'm not obviously going to be casting them. So
this is a perfect follow-up then, but Jody asks, Claribel, will you have any input on the Ghost Squad movie coming out?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna have any like sort of consultation role on the movie. We're not at that point yet. So I guess I will find out in the near future.
I regret that I'm gonna have to do this. It flashed so quickly, I don't actually remember it. Brian, what is the spider question, and why do you keep saying answer the spider question? I didn't see it. I remember seeing something, and then I couldn't read it because then another one of your chaotic questions got chosen.
I think it was Ryan, like, spider. Yeah, so it was something about them winking, but I don't know exactly what. Do spiders wink with one of their 8 eyes or 4 of their 8 eyes? I'm gonna say.
What's wrong with you? First of all,
I want to say I would like to imagine that spiders wink like Rihanna, meaning they don't know how to wink, so they like go like that. But
like drunk
they do
Kristen Wiig.
They do like the motion, but they're closing both eyes, so they're not like. So they're closing all their eyes, and they think they're winking, but they're not because they can't control them.
Here's a weird question, and I've literally never thought about it. Do spiders have eyelids?
I hate this.
I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it with every part of my body. I don't know. Do they? Ryan, I don't want to Google it. Why did you do this to us? I'm doing it. I'm Googling it. Do spiders have eyelids?
One of their 8. I said they wink with all of their eyes at once.
I got the answer and I hate it. Spiders do not sleep in the same way that humans do, but like us, they do have daily cycles of activity and rest. They cannot close their eyes because they don't have eyelids, but they reduce their activity levels and lower their metabolic rate to conserve energy.
So they can't wink. Right?
They're always prepared to get us because they're just
Ryan is
one moment.
clacking.
I don't,
He's
please.
cackling.
Cackling.
He's
Clacking. Cackling. Hey, does anyone want to ask a non-spider question? That would be great.
That would be really good.
Oh my God. Why did you? This is chaos.
This is my fault for telling him I was on YouTube Live. I'm going to admit
it's
it.
Great. It's perfect. I'm so glad we did this. So while we're waiting for another question, I remember this from earlier. Someone requested that you speak very candidly about a TV show that you just watched that I haven't seen. What is it called?
Too hot to handle.
Please pitch the show to me first of all. What is? I've been seeing people yell about it, but
it is a show that is like a ripoff of Love Island, except it's only 8 episodes, so you don't actually get to know anybody, and there's no journey, even though they want to make it like this very deep thing. And you're in it to win $100,000, and the way that you win it is by you can't have any physical touch with any of the other people, and they find out like once they're there. And that aspect of it quickly becomes unimportant. So it's like, what was the point? We watched the whole thing on Netflix party last night, me and my writing group, and I was so angry at the end of it. It was just very not good. There's a lot.
I also feel like, what a weird show to debut during a social distancing pandemic, where I was like, oh, I'd win that in a second because I've been doing it.
Yeah. Like, you're looking at these people like, you're weak.
Are they like hot? Like, are they or is it that thing where they're just
questionable?
Oh, God.
It's like, well, they have these like, oh my God, this question's really good. It's like they're conventionally, I guess, attractive. I don't think it's worth it. It's a dud.
Okay, I will not watch it. This is a great question. If Pancho was a superhero, what would be his superpower?
Oh my God. I think Pancho would be able to control everything that you do. He would have like the Force or something, because he already does that to me. He runs my life.
I'm not answering any of these spider questions. They're getting more and more chaotic. Claribel, what is a newer show that you watched and liked that you would like to recommend to people that they watch during their time at home?
I haven't finished it. I have 1 episode left, but The Letter for the King was really cute. It was like sort of a middle grade-ish YA type show with adventure. It has like a really diverse cast. It was funny, really well done. I haven't watched the last episode, so I don't know like if it all falls apart at the end, which is very possible, but I had a lot of fun watching it, like watching the episodes that I did so far. It was really cute.
What about a book that you read recently that you would like everyone else to read?
I read Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey, and that book was really good. The audiobook is incredible. I really, really liked it a lot.
Katie, what are you currently reading? Is there a book you're working your way through?
Yes, I am reading Strange the Dreamer for the first time, and also The House. The House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm reading as well. Yeah.
Am I reading a book right now? I finished. I actually am starting a new book. Should I go get? Where is it? Because I kind of want to brag about having it. I'm not. It's called How It All Blew Up by Arvin Amati, and it's not out yet. I was so excited because I've been hearing Arvin talk about this book for so long, and I'm so happy. I miss you, Arvin. I'm so happy that it's actually happening. So that is the next book I'm going to start. I'm actually in between books, so I'm not currently reading one, but I'm very excited to start it.
Every time I think of Arvin, I think of him doing karaoke during Book Expo many years ago. It was amazing.
Oh, come back. Come back. You're all...
No. Mark has been taken again, unfortunately. I love that he always looks concerned when he freezes. Like, his face always looks slightly emotional. He'll be back. Question for Claribel. True or false? All horses turn 3 at the new year. According to Kat, this is true. I don't know what it means exactly. But Kat said it, so I believe it.
Okay. I want you to know this awful sleeping spider is what is on my phone right now. It's just, like I forgot I had looked it up and then the thing froze and I looked down and I was like, oh God. Okay. Anyway. Do we have any other questions that came through while I was yelling at the void? I can't tell because it didn't refresh on the chat.
I don't think so. Somebody asked my favorite species of whale. I'm not answering that.
Is there? I mean,
I don't like whales. I'm scared of them.
Oh, you don't like whales?
Wait.
Why are you scared of whales?
I don't not like them. I don't not like them. I think they're beautiful, majestic creatures. I am scared of them because they are too big. I feel like whales are enormous, and it's just like it overwhelms me how big they are.
But you're not like swimming in the deep ocean. Like you're never gonna.
Am I not though? As a Caribbean child. I grew up swimming in the ocean, and I love to go really far out.
Okay, all right, okay. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know you like to swim into whale country. But I feel like whales eating humans is extremely low on the like actual.
I understand that, but they're still really big. Okay,
I mean,
I'm scared of them.
I respect that because I also am convinced that every horse I meet will eat me. And
there you go.
They don't eat people. They just don't.
Just have feelings about animals, and it's more of a fear that stems from respect rather than like it's like I'm also scared of rats, but I'm scared of them because I'm disgusted by them. I'm not disgusted by whales. I think they're really cool, but when I see them, I get anxious because I just feel like they're too big, and they won't even know I'm there, and they're just gonna like kill me by an accident.
Yeah. I feel like that's like very related to I have a very deep-seated like fear and respect of the deep ocean. I don't know what's down there. It's terrifying. It's gonna kill me. But I'm glad it's there and it does its thing and biodiversity is great.
Yeah.
I just said diversity in the ocean is great. It's awesome.
Why is Mark a whale lawyer, Ryan?
I'm a whale lobby. I just didn't get it. I just wanted to let's pry into the weird whale anxiety. And now I get it. I'm not like advocating on behalf of whales.
It's fine. Everybody has the same reaction. They like try to convince me that like
I'm not wild. Yeah, no. I get it now. I really need to close my phone. This horrible spider on it. Turn it around. It's awful. Kat, what is wrong with you? The horse in the star-touched queen eats people. I'm like, oh, I forgot. That's right. Yeah, I need to fight Roshni for that one. That was like a primal. Let's talk about that. What's a thing that you read or like because we talked about this.
Wow. We're gonna have to do a GoFundMe to get Mark an Ethernet cable because his internet is
okay. It's real bad. Yeah, it's there's no sense to why it happens. Let's talk about it because we sort of talked about this earlier too, of this notion of the things that we read or watched as a kid. But like, I love this idea of like, what are things? So let's think about what's something in a YA book. It doesn't have to be from your childhood that you read that you're just never gonna forget. Like you're just never, because that's one of them. And I can't believe I didn't remember. But yeah, the horse in the Star Church, that scene ruined me. I was like, no, absolutely not. So what's something like that?
I don't. It's not necessarily a childhood book or like, but the Nazgul from the Lord of the Rings book always to this day like scare me so much. And like I remember watching the movies in the movie theater and like I had like a physical reaction to seeing the Nazgul because they were so scary. And I just remember reading those books in high school and just being really, really afraid of them and just like the way they were described and like how you did not want to be caught by them. And I think I will never forget how scared that made me. It really, really made me afraid. And I'm sure there's been a lot more, but I can't think of them.
I am going to submit There's also a warning about it, but I don't want to like reveal a spoiler because there's a huge spoiler. So if you've read it, you'll understand. The dad in Wilder Girls. If you've read Wilder Girls,
I haven't read it. That book, just the premise of that book scares me. So I think I'm gonna not.
There's
oh my God,
it is
you're gonna cry.
it's one of the I'm a horror buff. It's true. I cry over dogs on the subway. It's great. I love it. I'm a horror buff. I love horror. And I was explaining this to a friend that horror for me is controlled anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety, but here's a situation where I know everything is not real. And so the anxiety I feel is almost fun. Like So very few things freak me out anymore because I've seen so much. And there is a scene in Wilder Girls and it involves a dad, and that's all I'm gonna say. I texted 30 people. I have like my horror therapy friends where I'm doing this horror movie binge right now, and we are all constantly recommending things. So thank you. Someone knows the dad in Wilder Girls. It's one of the most horrifying things I've ever read. I think about it way too often. It is, how does someone's mind think of something that horrible? So,
well, now I want to read it. Now I want to know what it is. So I guess I'm going to.
Yeah, you should do it. Everyone read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I'm also excited because after I read Arvin's book, I have Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power, which is Rory's second book. I'm very excited to read that too. And I'm sure it will scar me.
Gosh.
Look, I got a bunch of books before the pandemic started. It's time to read them. It's time to read.
Do it.
So I just want to say, first of all, thanks to the Bronx's Reading for hosting this and making this happen. I am so thankful that the Bronx's Reading exists. I'm so thankful that I've gotten to go to 2 of the Bronx's Reading, big festivals. I want to thank you, Claribel. Yo, you're amazing and you're so talented.
Amazing.
And I'm so happy to know you. And I'm so happy your book is out in the world. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger. This is just going to get weirder and weirder. And I love it. And I'm so excited for you and to see how Ghost Squad is going to take off. So thank you for chatting with me and for all of these people who
thank you everyone for coming. You guys were so much fun. Thank you, Mark. I had the best time. Thank you to Cericia as well.
Oh yeah, thank you, Cericia. Thank you. This was amazing. There you are. You're back.
Thank you. This was amazing. Y'all are so hilarious. I'm probably going to replay this a couple of times. And so many books to add to my to-be read list. So thank you so much.
And as a reminder, through Bookshop, you can purchase both of our books. You can purchase Ghost Squad. You can purchase Anger as a Gift. There is also a link to my pre-order campaign for my second YA book, Each of Us a Desert, which is out September 15th of this year. So please buy our books, support your fellow Kidlit authors, and please never troll us with questions about winking spiders ever again. Never gonna recover. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. So I don't know how to end this thing, by the way, because this is the first time I've been on this side of StreamYard. So I'm just like, whatever. We'll just leave. We'll just go away.
I'm going to end it now. Oh, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning in.